to a new episode of the SEO Lounge with IMG. I'm so excited to have you here. While you're here, why don't you tell us where you are joining from and what you want to learn? We have one of the best keyword research experts in the world, Leo, and he is the founder of Keyword Cupid. And I could just rave about him all day. But we're just looking in the chat. All right, there's Brent. Very excited to see you. Scott, excited to see you as well. Great. So I'm here with my co-host, Andrew Stephen. And do you want to introduce Andy?
Sure. Thank you, Lauren. I'm joining from cold, dark Melbourne, Australia right now. And I might be wearing a t-shirt up top because I really wanted to get my my pop t-shirt on. But down below, I'm wearing very thick, woolly boots because it's 8 degrees Celsius. It's amazing to be here. It's amazing to have Leo here today with us. This has been a long time in the making, trying to organize this event with Leo, who is really like the keyword superhero of our industry. We're broadcasting from a number of platforms today. We're broadcasting from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from YouTube, from the SEO Lounge page on our website, from our members live event area, LinkedIn. Did I mention that? Wherever you're joining us from, you can use the chat to ask questions, and we will get them. They'll come through to us, and we'll do our best to answer either live or directly in the chat. Lauren. Lauren, you are on mute.
How's that? All right. Thank you so much. So we have a new episode Lounge every month. You can subscribe to our email and also check out our main landing page to see replays of previous events as well as new news about the current and upcoming events. So Andy, you want to tell everybody here a little bit about IMG Courses before we get started?
Sure. A little on IMG Courses. So I'm the co-founder of IMG Courses, and we're a membership platform for SEOs. So for $97 a month, you get access to a huge range of courses. There's over 40 courses in there right now, and we're adding a new course every single month. And there's a lot of other benefits as well, like access to the community of SEO experts. We have live events for members just about every week. And we have a huge collection of SEO tests, which are updated every month as well. So you can have a look at that at internetmarketing.gold and see if it's something that interests you. Enough of the pitch. One of the things which I enjoy most out of all of my different roles is putting together this show every month. In the past, we've had Bibi Raven teaching how to do link outreach and get an insane response rate. We've had Viola Eva teaching her tricks on content marketing. We've had Kyle Roof teaching how to rank a page for 10 times more keywords. We've had Jason Barnard teaching his secrets on brand SEO, some of the biggest names in the industry. And today I'm really, really pumped for Leo's workshop on keyword clustering and cannibalization. Lauren.
Yeah, so Leo is a programmer and a machine learning specialist with a real knack for human behavior. He's one of the most emotionally intelligent developers I've ever met, and charming as can be. So in addition to hosting a course in IMG, he is the founder of the incredible Keyword Cupid. And he has very generously offered an IMG exclusive discount for 20% off of Keyword Cupid for 6 months. So thank you, Leo. And without further ado, I think it's time to bring Leo to the stage.
You're on mute, Leo.
Now?
There you go.
Loud and clear.
How do you follow this kind of description? Thank you so much for your kind words. I think they are overselling me, to say that least, but I am so excited to be here. Thank you for everyone that could make it. So I appreciate you all, and hopefully it's going to be fun.
Leo, where are you coming from today?
I'm coming from Philadelphia, which I used to be in New York for the last decade, but I recently relocated to the beautiful city of Philadelphia. So
Well,
yeah,
it's always sunny.
It's yeah, well, for the most part. And yesterday was raining, but the show says otherwise. It's a very nice city though. So if you happen to be here, hit me up.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah, you and Lauren actually used to live not far from one another. Am I right?
Oh my God! When we were discussing with Morgan of like, are we gonna leave from New York? I'm like, but Lauren is here. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, we can't leave Lauren. So yeah, Lauren is a reason to be in a place for sure. She's one of those people.
Aww.
I've just got a little story on one of my early intros to Leo. I think perhaps we'd met once before, very briefly. I can't even say for sure, but I was looking for somewhere to stay in Europe. I must have posted on Facebook just asking for recommendations a few years ago now. I don't even know if you remember this, Leo.
I really
But
don't.
almost
So
straight away, I got a private message asking if I wanted to use his house on the beach on a Greek island for free.
Sounds like me, and I know that sounds like a scam or somewhere where you live in Sydney, but I genuinely, like, this is my upbringing. I do that for my friends and like for people that I like or for people who I respect. So I don't remember this, but it does sound like me. It does sound something that I would do. So yeah, I can believe it.
Right. Okay. Well, unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to take you up on that offer yet, but I haven't forgotten about it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing looking house. I hope you get to go there semi-regularly.
Yeah. I mean, anyone in the community, just hit me up. As I said, like, this is pretty much what Greeks do. Like we like, if you meet my mother, she's probably gonna overfeed you until you don't want to like eat anymore. So yeah, that's what they do.
That's awesome. Gosh. So, Leo, you have an IMG exclusive course that you made for the platform called Genesis Next Level Keyword Research. And it's just amazing. This is one of my favorite courses in the platform. Can you talk a little bit about what your goal was with this course and what you teach in it?
Yeah. So first of all, like, when I discussed with Andy before, like when he mentioned like maybe you can do a course here, like the way that Kyle and Andy and Ted, you and Lauren and Vera, however you approach teaching and community is something that I very much align with. And although I wanted to like shoot these videos maybe in a private course or maybe my YouTube channels or like things that I will do regardless, I really wanted to have this opportunity to be a part of like a bigger family that is much smarter than me. And I honestly, even I'm more of a student than a tutor there. So I just wanted to participate. I just wanted to be a part of like something that, for $97, you can get access to things that are always changing, always emerging. Like, this is, if anything, it's actually underpriced, which has the caveat that people might not appreciate it as much because there's so much information and it can be monetized in so many ways. So that was my initial reason of like actually embarking in this journey. What I wanted to teach, what I felt compelled to do, which, because I do have experience with various things, I err usually in the side of gray to black. But I think that it's my academic background fits more into like the research and the unsupervised learning parts of things. So this is where Keyword Cupid, it's one of the scripts that I developed initially to do the clustering. And I thought that it could make sense for the community to start seeing a few of the things that I started receiving as a feedback from the clients that I have. Because the reason that I put one of my tools out as a public SaaS platform is because I wanted to test it at scale. And I wanted, because it's very difficult for me to test everything and have like bazillion sites, but it's much easier to see how I interact with others and learn how they're using these strategies. And I have learned so much from the community. People are using it for YouTube, for backlinks. So it was mainly to ignite a flame of like how maybe we can approach how can we approach keyword research and intent analysis from more of an emotional point of view, more of like, an empathetic user-based point of view, but a decision that's based on data, if that makes sense, not just as another kind of like clickbait, make it like for the user, like you see my ESP and blah, blah, blah. It's not just that, like yet another thing. It's mostly how can we see Google evolving and picking up those signals, and then translate this into something that makes sense for our strategy.
Yeah, that's one thing that I definitely felt when looking at the course, is that the data analysis side to keyword intent was just so much deeper than what anyone else is actually doing. So, you can look at a very basic level of keyword intent inside of SEMrush, for instance, but it's absolutely nothing compared to the level that you go into inside of your training and inside of your tool.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think there are different approaches. So, and we'll speak about those things, especially if the community is interested. Do you guys have a chat somewhere so we can see?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
Yep.
on the right hand side, you can toggle to the.
Oh, look at all these people. Hi. Yeah, I guess I do want to like make this. I don't want this to be rehearsed and everything. It's not rehearsed. There's going to be a lot of but yeah. So the main thing is that where I was going with this is that we can discuss of different approaches. I think SEMrush, for example, or Ahrefs, they do have the grouping that they are talking about is either from a lexicographical point of view of like IMG. And I have examples here where if you search IMG on Keyword Explorer, you will get like wildly wrong results. But then there's the other intents like informational, transactional, navigational, and like user behavior, human behavior is so much more than that. You can't be classifying this with three things just to put a frame on it. Sometimes you need to let the content or what's been written or the way that Google shows you things to influence what you should be writing about. But that's obviously a little bit more geeky, and I actually want to frame this to the audience that there is two sides of the story. The first one is actually being, and they're both very valid, by the way. The first one is being an SEO professional, selling services, doing something that's like like you're passing the baton to someone else. You're passing the baton to business. You're creating a keyword plan, blah, blah, blah. The second one is the alpha of the game, where you need to drill deep because you want page one, position one. You don't want page one. You want position one. You want to compete and you want to win. Again, it's not going to make or break, but it's the love of the game. So that's pretty much what there is the prerequisite to this one, because it's going to need empathy from your side to understand what the tool shows you, because the tools or any tool will show you a door. Hopefully, it's not going to make the decision for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll learn more about that in the workshop coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
I got another question. This is something on your background, because I'm really curious. You have a pretty impressive kind of CV. You've worked for a ton of really big and influential companies in a data science role or programming role.
Yeah.
And then you ended up in our industry in SEO. I'm not exactly sure how long you've been dabbling in it, but like, to what do we owe this privilege of you stumbling across SEO?
Yeah. So I was an algo trader for a while, like for Goldman Sachs, and then for 0.72 for a minute, which is like one of the biggest hedge funds in the world. And so what I quickly realized it because there was a traumatic event in my life, which was my father getting sick with brain cancer. And I literally, first of all, I lost everything. Like I was starting a PhD at Yale. I was doing like all the right things. And I realized that I need to just get $125,000 because she needed an operation at Sloan Kettering in New York. So that I didn't have. And there's no way to have this if you need to create revenue from an employee base of view, unless you're making like, millions and everything, you're always going to be chained in a thing And like, I never wanted to feel again this helplessness of like, literally, I was knocking on doors like, you have $1,000, and I had to do this. Like, I had to do this many, many times. So the stuff that I did at that point, once my father passed, I was like, I never want to go back to that point. So how do we create something? How do you make money online? That was the first query. And then there was a big path of like courses. And I'm pretty sure that everybody has the same or similar experiences where you try in a community, you pay for that course, doesn't make sense. You buy a site, you fail it, you burn it, PBN, crazy penalties and stuff like that. So this went on for many years until I was like, all right, let's step back. What do you actually feel like you're compelled to do, which is software. I like code. So I was able to sort of like develop many of the modules and then create connections. So even for CTRs and stuff, like we have like all the things that I have, all of the partnerships that I have is because I can automate a bit of the process. I can automate the CTR, I can automate the link building, I can automate the outreach, I can automate something that make a relationship with someone else. So that's what actually made me happy. And SEO, and specifically this industry, is amazing because you have like people that are hustling, that are making things. So you have like, it's actually quite typical to get a response on the weekend, which is not typical. It probably shouldn't be typical in other industries. You shouldn't respond on weekends. You should have personal time, but it just yields this kind of like mentality of like, I wanna create something, which I align with. And all those reasons are like, I really enjoy the people here. Like even the people, and every time that somebody messages me for a meeting on KeywordCupid, I'm always saying yes, irrespective of the size of the company. I probably have had thousands of meetings since I started this like 4 years ago until now. And it's the people that actually make this fun, because the money itself we're not going to take with us. And that's what my late father said. And I'm going to close it with that, you know, my father was a brilliant surgeon. He performed like 17,000 operations. And in the end, because brain cancer takes everything from you, in his deathbed, what he says, like, none of it matter. Only the faces you take with you. So it is the people that you have along the way and the connections that you're making that are making this worthwhile. And
yeah, I mean, SEO, I would like to think of it as not such a small industry. Like Google is obviously one of the biggest machines that we've ever created, but the community is actually super tight, and it doesn't take you long to get involved and to get connected to a lot of people. And you won't find too many haters or too many people that aren't ready to welcome you with open arms into the community, mostly of people who have never actually met face-to-face. And there's times when we do get to meet face-to-face, hopefully there'll be a time where we can do that in IMG with the members. Are really special because of those relationships that have been built up online over all those years.
Yeah. And I think that's another side benefit, that, you know, because it's so tightly knit, everyone knows everyone. So like it's funny to know that the circle is tight. So show yourself, try to be good, and then you will be rewarded. Try to like scam people, and then it's going to come back to you quite quickly.
100%.
Yeah. Wow. Really inspiring. Well, Leo, I know everybody's excited for your presentation. Shall we let you go ahead with it?
We shall, because as my mother said, like, you have to eat less and speak less. So this is going to take a while. So yeah, let me start sharing screen and let's start discussing.
Great.
All right.
And if anybody has questions, Andy and I will be watching the chat. If it seems like we have a moment, we might stop you, Leo. Otherwise, carry on.
Feel free.
Yeah, and you've got in terms of the format, you've got a little bit of kind of workshop, and then we also have a case study. Am I right?
Yeah. So the way that I was thinking about this, because again, I don't know how many people we have, and also what the level of the people we have. In a sense, like, have you watched my course? Are you just starting your site? I see Thomas is just starting his site. Eat less, talk less, is what I always say. I'm not skinny body. I'm putting off some pandemic weight for sure. But the whole point is to just, you know, start a little bit explain what we're doing here. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation or through like all the bits and pieces, but I think like I want everyone to be comfortable with what we're discussing. And what we're going to be seeing mostly is the part around cannibalization. I picked 2 sites from the list that you kindly provided that we can analyze. Those sites have already have ranking, and it's not the traditional stuff that I have shown in the course around keyword clustering. This is how you overlay your existing site on the clusters to try and find a mismatch of intent. Before we go there, let's talk about intent, because I don't want to like assume that everybody knows it. Search engine optimization, to me, as I said, it's a lot has to do with ESP, with this, which pretty much like the idea, or like, and again, I'm not talking about like extrasensory things that you need to have in order to be an SEO. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like understanding who your customer is, or who the person that comes into your website. It shouldn't be a generic like best stuff. It's not best stuff. It's best stuff for someone. And again, those are some people. I don't like to share my sites, but other people, and we have case studies. And Lucas Havro, who probably may or may not be in the audience, he's an IMGer, and he's one of the very close friends that I have. Amazing guy. He has Color Pick with his wife in the UK, and we saw the three-part video series where he describes how he's using Cluster for organic, paid, link building. He's amazing. He has a lot of processes. I'm editing the videos right now because I don't want to like reveal all his information, so I'm going to be sharing this. But those were just some things that can inspire you. Mark Mueller has a very nice case study around a plastic surgeon. Be sure to hit him up after, or find the case study in the blog of Keyword Cupid. But yeah, like all in all, like let's just start a bit on the objectives that you have and that Google has. The overall thing that you have to remember is that Google supposedly wants to show the most relevant and trustworthy answer to their audience. That's the thing. They don't care about impression volume. They don't care about not even the intent or what page is going to make you the most affiliate money, or your customers are going to close the most leads or something. So for that to manifest, you have to remember, how do you mediate that bit? Like, is it enough to be a plumbing expert resource to have like a pipe with a candle here? I don't think that that's going to relay to your audience, right? You have to show that you know what you're talking about. You have to have references the same way as academia. And I think everybody knows about internal linking and also outbound and inbound links. The links are who you are. And the internal links is pretty much the rest of the research that you have done. I call it content moat, which is like you're building a moat around your main page to support that you further evidence that you have done the research that you are claiming to be to have done, and that you're an expert for that topic. There are many kind of strong signals, bounce rates, internal links, blah blah blah, and user search history and behavior, which is very difficult to study since we don't have the back end of Google. But we can see something very interesting from one of the first frontiers when you go to Google, which is auto suggest. If you search best protein, or there's many examples for this, best protein, you will get this one. But if you search different things like type 2 diabetes, insulin shots, then you will get a different vector. And this is a very important thing to remember, because this shows that your session is mined in order to show your result, which also means that your session could be mined in order to show you the organic results. And that is something that happens. Let me move my screen so I can see the chat as well. That is something that happens with local. I think all of us know that if you are in New York and Philadelphia and Greece, you're getting different, or Australia, lovely Australia, you will get different queries in the organic. But we are starting to see a bit more of how you're actually getting different organic queries if your session is very well understood. For example, if you are lactose intolerant or gluten intolerant, and you have been searching this for a while, you will start seeing different things. Corey Rose and actually Lucas has the same case study. They were showing how they were able to influence organic rankings with Google Ads, and they were. Corey has a blog post, a case study in the Keyword Cupid blog, which it might make sense for you to read. Not because you have to start using Google Ads to rank for organic, but because it's going to show that maybe there is an intent-based part of the algorithm that's ranking people that are more closely related, more closely associated with this type of intent. And their traffic validates the existence of the page. All in all, I know that this was a bit of a rant, but intent is classified based on the personality, right? If you are diabetic, then you might need a different protein than a bodybuilder or something. Then we do keyword research, which is a big umbrella in itself. I'm not going to go through this a lot. I just want to show you a couple of things. Like, I love asking this question because it has affected me a lot in my sites, and most likely most of you will have seen this already. But if you want to wonder yourself whether or not cryptocurrency side hustle and cryptocurrency side income are the same, actually, give me one if you think they are the same, so we can actually do some waking up. Give me one if you think they're the same. Give me two if you think that they're not the same, and by not the same meaning like that you shouldn't target them in the same page. Or three, it's something else. One, they are the same host. Who else? Come on, give me something. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So the answer that I can give you is the number three. Depends, because we are SEO. So I love it depends. I usually use it depends even if I want to have dinner. So it depends on when you ask that question. So if you asked that question like 3-4 years ago, those things were the same and irrelevant, like because there was not enough articles. But as the queries progress, as people create more posts because there's more money around that specific topic, as people want to start peeling off the layers of bigger sites by targeting the long tail, this actually became different. Not only different, but you can see here that the cryptocurrency side hustle targets a different person. Millennial targets someone who wants to do a side hustle, who wants to live. Can be their big side hustle start. Trading has to do with trading. Side hustle is trading. Side income has to do with staking, as you see here. It talks to the passive investor earning passive income. So it's a very different person. The first one, actually, you see here, this targets a millennial. This doesn't say millennials here. This is more of an investor mentality. So, and the reason that this happens is because there's so much money in the field that people started branching out, creating more things. Google started picking those things up more. But it has to be from the from the point of the person behind the query. There is a lot that have to be done with, keyword research. Again, I'm not going to go through this. We mentioned about the intent and everything, and all the classes that tools have, which go from the point of the lexicon of the Levinstein distance, the distance of the words, which doesn't mean anything. And that's why when you do organic research, which is what Google thinks, like if you do a keyword research on IMG, you will get Internet Marketing course Gold Coast, Robert Gold Internet Marketing Poland, Henry Gold Internet Marketing. Don't think that those people are in IMG. But then if you actually get the organic, which is what Google associates because of all the signals that they have captured, you get Cora, you get Kyle, you get a lot of things that don't even have to do with IMG specifically. And that's why we should do keyword research with an organic point of view, not with the magic tools and stuff like that. Blah, blah, blah. We collect our keyword list, which again, don't want to, for the time's sake, I'm not going to go into. And then what do we do with it? We need keyword clustering. I think we have established that we need to find a way when you have like, I don't know, maybe you guys are better. I can even read like 500 things and I remember them. I'm going to forget them when I get distracted. Imagine if you have like 10,000, 40,000 keywords. So the whole point is that we need an algorithm. We need a way to find out how those topics interlay with each other based on what Google thinks. What hasn't been studied and we haven't talked about enough is the two opposing forces of like, you can look at page one alone and you can think that, page one will guide you into understanding those relationships. And there has been attempts from SharpStats, which is a great company, by the way. I think you should check them out. SharpStats, SpikeSerp, TopVisor, those were companies that were analyzing the first 3 out of the 10 SERPs of page one. And they were saying if they are together, you group them together. There's modern iterations from tools that have started doing pretty much the exact same thing, but with different flavors. The problem is that those sort of solutions suffer from this kind of problem where you have, if you change the data set, like if you see this kind of data set with these 3 queries, you will group those 2 things together, and then you will group the find puppies for sale aside because you broke the symmetry with this one. But if you view it this way, you will group, though if you reorder your data set, you will get 2 different clusters. So in a sense, the order matters, and also who came to be like 3 out of the 10. Like if this is a popular search, it might be more. We can't base our kind of assumptions based on only that kind of that threshold, and especially when something's so noisy. And also the biggest points, apart from everything else.
Yeah, could you just read a couple of those examples out on the screen for people who might find it a bit difficult to read?
Oh yeah, sorry. So these are 3 queries, and this is the serve vector of page 10. So I'm just running the algorithm that tools have, like modern, like I think Cluster AI Keywords Insights, like QY, like there's many comparisons in the field. And no, they're great work, and it helps. It's more deterministic, so it knows what you know what it does. But this is one of the problems, that if you have how to find puppies for sale near me, find puppies for sale near me, and you say if it has 3 out of the 10 the same, I'm grouping it together. Okay, so you grouped it together. And then you have looking for a puppy. If it has 3 out of the 10 with everything in the cluster, I'm grouping it together. Well, it has 4 out of the 10 with this one, but it has 2 out of the 10 with this one. So you can't group this together. It has to be by itself. And then what happens if you just change the order? You will group those because they have 4 out of the 10, but then this one is going to stay by itself. So now you have, with just 3 keywords, 2 different clusters based on the order, much as you have 10,000. That is one of the problems. And again, the second problem is obviously who said that it's 3 and not 1 or not 5. It depends on how popular that specific keyword is. Because if it's very popular and there's all of the more things written, maybe we need to look forward. And so that's one of the issues that I'm talking about. And the biggest thing that I want to return back to that bit when you're doing keyword clustering is if you're looking at just I'm calling it the Neil Patel pages, which appear there, they are rehash content. They're not exactly something amazing that you have never seen before, but they appear there because of the domain. And that is a problem, because people focus so much on page 1 when they're starting a site. And I'm like, you're not Neil Patel. You're not Bet365. You can't outrank them. So looking at the whole vector as a whole is the most important thing, in my opinion, that we can do. Because it's not the validity of the answer, it's the appearance of the answer that matters. And I'll show you what I mean with an example before we go to the case studies. So, and again, just to reinforce that thing, that statement that I'm making, just because a page is ranking for keywords, it doesn't mean that they belong together. Prime example, the Neil Patel page ranks for, are we 40 minutes in?
33.
Oh my God, I have to speed up.
It's fine. Sometimes we go a bit over.
Yeah, can we go a bit over? I mean, if you guys want to jump, by all means. I'm going to try to keep it concise. I just want to give you a few of the ideas that I'm talking about. So before we go into the actual case studies, but it's not something amazing here. What I'm talking about is pretty much long-tail optimization, which is what's affiliate marketing runs for top 30 for 1,800 keywords. And if you see what's affiliate marketing, but what's affiliate marketing has a lot more smaller intents. How to set up affiliate links. That's a pretty sort of different term to me. It's for a beginner. It's a very different thing than affiliate online affiliate programs or something like that, or how to set them up. And actually, you can see that how to set up affiliate links. The person who is ranking for that is a DR65 with 30,000 backlinks, 2.4 million, much smaller scale, but it ranks number 1 because it's so tightly optimized to that specific intent. And this is pretty much long-tail optimization. I'm not saying something new. All I'm saying is that by targeting snipers posts and focus to that specific intent, you are not hurting yourself, because you are very pigeonholed in one thing. And when things come to when Google picks up this kind of intent, you're going to be there, rather than having just one page, mass page, trying to imitate a site that ranks because of its ranking, that ranks because of its age and backlinks and whatnot.
Leo, I've got a question for you, and it's kind of relevant to this, but on a slight tangent.
Yeah.
We practice and teach within our agency something based on a method called traffic tiers and avalanche theory. Do you know about that?
I think I have heard of it. Explain it a bit more so I don't, make a fool of myself.
The method, the rule behind the method is basically that the more traffic you have, the more traffic Google is likely to reward you with.
Yeah.
And so that is why keywords that have a higher search volume are more likely to have a website with a lot of traffic ranking for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you don't have that much traffic coming to your site, then you can try and rank for keywords that have a high quantity of traffic, but it's more likely to go to a site that already has a lot more traffic. And you can actually work out what your traffic tier is by the number of visits which you get. And you can correlate that with a keyword sheet which shows monthly search volume and find out what traffic tier you're in and what keywords you can actually easily rank for and what keywords you'll find it very difficult to rank for. And it's not to do with intent as much as just search volume.
It's brilliant, and it is exactly on par of what I have seen from my stuff. And actually, I'm doing a CTR study with profiles that I created, and they are warm. They are searching exactly the same thing all the time, and pretty much this is what Corey was doing here. I think it's exactly that. You can traffic is a validator of the existence of the page, and his sources he was able to rank for testosterone booster with Google Ads because he was targeting those single group keywords that came from the cluster that were very targeted, and the page was very optimized for. So the traffic that Google was sending from their backdoor was validating from backdoor, meaning from their Google Ad module was validating the existence of the page. That's why the organic rankings were going up. I think it was accidental. It didn't focus the formula that you're saying, but this is brilliant. I want to actually look into it more because I do want an exact formula to do my tests. And I do think that this is something that is next level. Obviously, this is not for a beginner. You have to walk before you run, but those things you need to keep them in mind for sure.
So you're saying that the CTR on Google Ads from a campaign running for the same domain was actually able to affect organic rankings and traffic?
Yeah, actually, I mean, Lucas will show this as well with his videos, but I mean, you can read the case study, and we can also understand why. There's a pattern here that says about the existing user ID, the user ID when again, that's why everything blends together. It's not a clickbait that ESP stuff. It is the user ID is being tracked. So when you are buying a traffic that has to do with that specific testosterone booster or DHA booster, or Louis Vuitton designer inspired fabric, which was a very difficult term. He didn't create any backlinks or any new posts. He just targeted traffic. Again, I don't think that he did it. I think if you blend the avalanche method that you have with specific, tiers based on the keyword, this is going to be even more. But just bring the traffic that Google thinks is relevant to the page. So in a sense, the organic part validates the existence of the page because you're getting the traffic that you want. That's what Google wants. So yeah, I found it very interesting, and now I'm trying to imitate the same thing without buying the ads, but creating Google profiles that Gmail profiles that are having this sort of backstory. They are warm profiles. They are doing this I'm doing searches for 2 weeks for a specific part crypto or whatever, and then they are going and they are doing the query and they are clicking on my site. That's why I don't share my sites, because it's not fair. I'm doing some nasty things. Yeah, this was on a tangent, but that's what you do if you rile me up.
Yeah, answer the question.
Cool. All right, I'm going back. I think I'm all in all, just remember that finding just the figuring out only the page one could have implications in terms of you're pigeonholing yourself on some you're trying to be something that it's not just keywords or strategy or the keywords in the page. It has a lot more that you're not seeing. It might be ranking for reasons that they are not really even important. So that was one, and I think that brings me to the car accident study, which you have seen before. Actually, I don't know if we have time. I think it might be. All I want to say is that, there are many high-powered URL domains that are ranking very well, and like the case study that I have shown in the course around the car accidents, Harvard Medical ranks with this kind of URLs like yoga and back. This is like 187 keywords on page 1. Hot and cold, the best meds, back pain, what's causing your lower back pain. It's not just like back pain. They are going deep, they're going targeted. And you can see other things like fracture, like strain. They understand that they're not a client. If you know them, please refer. But they understand that, you have to flavor that intent specifically to the query that you're trying to capture. All right. How are we feeling? How do I go from fake moon landing to this?
Did you want to go through some questions now while we tangent into
the next part? We tangent to the next bit.
Sure. We got this one from Ben Jumper. Can we use a VPB instead of clearing cookies?
Virtual private browser?
I guess that's what he's referring to.
VPB, you mean like what's that bit? Not browser stacks. I'm instead of clearing quick. I'm not 100% sure what you mean. If I understand correctly, what you mean about the private browser, like the
Ben, maybe you can further elaborate on what the question is, and we'll come back to that one.
Yeah, and also we're going to be talking about
We have another one here from Mark, and he's just asking, he said the slides are a little blurry for him. Mark, don't worry. Everybody who's here, we're going to give you a copy of the presentation, and the time-stamped replay will be live in the next 24 to 48 hours.
The slides are blurry. How does...
They look good they look good on our side, so yeah.
Huh. I do see like a little bit of installation. It's weird.
It's just a lot of them have a lot of detail in them, which sometimes might not come across on a small screen. Thomas is using SEMrush and liking that tool a lot for keyword research.
Yeah, it's great.
And he's wondering if you recommend any alternatives for the keyword research you're doing.
I do think that you should check SharpStats. I mean, they have a great team, and I love them. I mean, many of my employees are in Ukraine. I'm 100%, 110%, whatever percentage you want to put there, like in pro Ukraine. So I'm trying to support in any way I can. But it's not just that. SharpStats is great. I've been using it for many years. It's slightly cheaper than SEMrush. Again, same kind of background, has a lot of keyword research, backlinking things. SEMrush, there's nothing wrong with SEMrush. I think it's great. All in all, it's mostly about how do you collect your keyword list. The tool is not necessarily important, either keyword. No tool is going to replace you. And I want to make this immensely clear. The tools are they have to be arranged. If you find a tool that does this for you and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to sit in the couch and the tool's going to do it for me. Well, it's going to do it for your competitor too. So like the great tools are the ones that are like, they are showing you, but they're not showing you because you need to learn how to use them. So any tool's good. As long as it pulls correct data.
And then Brent asked, he said he just signed up for a trial of Keyword Cupid. Leo, do you have any videos or trainings on Cupid?
Yeah, yep. I've been shooting the videos. Pretty much this is the presentation, like the flow of the presentation. But IMG, I think like the videos that I have in IMG do it like a good kind of like explanation of like how do you get into it, how do you understand or interpret the different clusters. There's a lot that are going on, so I know that it can be overwhelming. I've been developing the last bits that I wanted to develop, which I'm going to show you now with the content briefs and everything, and I think I'm ready to transition into more actually marketing this thing, because I haven't. If it wasn't for IMG, nobody would know about keyword Cupid. So thank you guys.
Brent, it sounds like you can just message Leo and get him to do a one-to-one demo as well.
Yeah. Perhaps, I mean,
1001 in the
I'll build your
onboarding
site too.
meetings. Nathan has a question. Typically, when people give examples of keyword clustering, they use non-local terms. Can they give examples for a local business, for example, a real estate company that sells homes in Dallas, Texas?
Yeah. So the geo modifier is important. That being said, when you're doing clustering, and especially like the way that we're going to see this from the point of like the keyword Cupid or any tool that you're using, it's not an SEO tool at that stage, or at the stage where you have like, let's start from your sub, which is one of the sites that you provided. At this stage, when you see that mind map, it's not an SEO tool. Actually, I have like a contractor from that works with the Department of Defense that uses this for hacking attacks. So they are providing the actual query of the hacking attack, and because of the Stack Overflow or the queries are coming back, we're able to understand what sort of groups of hacking attacks people are focusing. Or I have a great friend from the Netherlands who provides chatbots sort of questions, and the system is that because Google knows how to place those things, they're doing the heavy lifting for us, so we can understand what your customers are asking. So all I want to say is that at this stage, there's no SEO involved. The most important thing that you can do is give to the machine, especially for keyword Cupid, because keyword Cupid uses machine learning. So it's literally like a training a neural network to understand what you want to say. If you provide the local modifier that doesn't have any super kind of juice for the system to understand where does this query belong, it's going to hurt pretty much the algorithm, because it's going to see best auto accident lawyer New York, best auto accident lawyer Texas. Okay, so but you didn't tell me anything else. What is an auto accident? So that's the stuff that you need to remember. That being said, if you actually have an event like hurricane in New York, and you include all these modifiers, now we're talking about something very specific. And that's how actually it's the best way to do local optimization, by focusing on that specific state and then playing around with different intents that are very locally specific because of the news that have been published around this.
I'll read this one. Lauren's on mute. Leo, does your country of origin for the URL have an impact on the rankings? Like, would it be easier to get a higher ranking from, say, Ghana or Romania versus the USA? That's a good question.
Yeah, your country of origin, do you mean the website? Like if you have like a .ro, compare, like you're trying to rank for Romania versus another country versus USA?
Referring to the search user, but I'm not 100%.
So if we're talking about ranking, the origin of the URL, the origin of can you repeat the question? Because I'm not, it's ambiguous to me of like, do you mean, because let me tell you this, if you are trying to understand the intent of Romanian keywords, and I did this with Greek keywords, because I understand Greek, I'm Greek. So if you hear like specify that you are in Greece and you're doing those questions, though you are pulling those results, you get a very different result set than if you do it from New York, because the results, if you say that you are Greece, Athens, here, and then we will use proxies from Greece, the results are going to be very different. The intent is going to be very different. So that's one thing. In terms of ranking, if it's easier to rank outside of the US, again, depends on the niche. Most likely, yes, because there's not too much competition. But obviously, there is a trade-off there. But the location where you pull the search absolutely makes a difference. I mean, search best fast food near me. Like we have very different things. I miss pizza so much. We have free logistics here, but yeah. So that's that about that.
Very cool. And so we have another question from Naftali. She asks, can you elaborate a little bit more about finding the best headings within a cluster for a page?
I got you. But I got you. I will get you in a minute, because we do have like, actually, you know what? It might be late where you are, so I'm just going to show you now. All in all, you do the cluster mumbo jumbo, you find out what you want to target, and then you want to create a post. So what we have, the new addition is like you can just click the what is RFQ 34 keywords, and what it's going to do is going to scrape all the first 20 content from each one of the URLs, and then it's going to create. We use BERT on the back end to understand. We're scraping everything. We're talking about like headings, content, images, whatever. So what you're going to be able to do is that you're going to see, you're going to find out the headings that have to do with the keywords that you provided. So for the lovely two people that provided their websites, what I have also done is created a few briefs specifically for different parts of the intent. So like, as you see here, this is about what is an RFQ request for quote. And is there a phone ringing? No. And this came directly from the competitor, so you can actually see what people are writing. You can generate content, and you can see like what images are people using. So it's going to try to generate, like on the top, something that has to do with RFQ. Again, as far as I'm concerned, if you refer to it where you found it, it's game to use it. But so you can get an idea of what has been written for that specific cluster intent. But I'm gonna. This is the end bit. Obviously, we need to discuss about those two websites because they provided the. I think Greg Colby was the other name. By the way, guys, if you're in the audience, be prepared. I want to bring you on. I don't know. Can we do that? Can we bring people on?
Yeah, we can bring on. Technically. What do you say, Andy?
Yeah, if someone wants to come on, it's possible.
Okay, but we don't have to. I just wanted to make it
probably a bit difficult, to be honest.
Okay. I should have asked for it before, but yeah. So those two websites were provided by a few members of the audience, and again, I think it's going to make more sense because I don't live and breathe their website, so I'm just going to discuss a few things of how you can approach this, and obviously we can take it offline and get deeper. I can also pass those studies. I think I went to
what's often the best here is if we kind of try and get to the end of the workshop, and those who want to hang around, who have questions, we can try and get to as many questions as possible. People will start to drop off
you're
afterwards, and those people who want to hang around for that can.
All right. So without further ado, let me go back into because what we're going to be discussing is a dark subject, which is intent cannibalization, right? And what is even cannibalization? It's a bigger question. It's like, what's going to buy iPhone, for example? Buy iPhone, Apple ranks for everything and with different URLs. So is it cannibalization or not? Somebody without looking at it would be like, yeah, sure they are, but they're ranked for page one. That's a very good problem to have. So the biggest benefit that you can have is when you identify that you have different, that you can quickly see that there's URLs that are competing, but they are different intent. If they are different intent, then there's not exactly a mismatch or a complication. If they are the same intent, then you probably have to do something to de-optimize one page and optimize the other one with content or with links. We will see how this can work. For this specific stuff, and again, I know I'm going over time, but there's the welltravel.com, a site around traveling, asap.com, a SaaS platform for construction. So we're going to start from ASAP because it was a bigger site, so it had a lot of interesting things that we can play with. Again, I think it was Greg the name, if I'm not mistaken. If you are here and you want to ask questions or send stuff, hi Lucas. If you want to send anything on the chat, we can actually see it or take it offline later. But this is the site that Greg, and maybe it's not Greg. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the owner was Greg. So isap.com, this was the status of it. Pretty awesome site. This is one of the competitors, and actually they provided Raykin.com in the seat. So I was kind of busting myself, why is this a competitor? It has nothing to do with construction software. And apparently it's RaykinUp.com, but call it raking, which I think they're going to have an issue here at some point. But all in all, that's their competitor. So what I did is that again, the other thing that I have for Sean is that when I asked you guys to provide your Google Search Console keywords, I should have given you an API so I can pull everything, because I only got 1,000. So it's very difficult to do anything meaningful with just 1,000 keywords. I used Ahrefs and other methods to get all the keywords that the site is ranking, and then also supplemented with gap analysis, and also supplemented with PAAs for many of the keywords. So I created a bigger list. Now we will see. This is the domains of the site, and something else like this, actually, it's a very good job, because their backlinks, their domains are increasing, but their referring pages are kind of like staying static. This is not null, obviously, but you see in some campaigns that you're increasing the domains, and then you like the actual pages explode, which means that you're getting multiple backlinks from one domain, which is not ideal. Whereas this one, you're getting pretty much like very few, which is much greater, because you are actually getting a lot more power. And there is, all in all, there is kind of like good performance. I do see a little bit drop, which might be seasonal. I don't necessarily know if there's any specific fear about the site. It said mismatch in like the reason that they submitted it was about mismatch of intent, which there is. But if there is something else that you are kind of like conscious about or aware, or something else that I'm not seeing, please mention it in the chat. But without further ado, I collected like 21,807 keywords for each sub. So again, it goes back to the point that we want to collect as many data points, as many signals, so the machine can understand where everything belongs. What's the tracking software? How does it work? Blah, blah, blah. So once this is clustered and everything, why KiwiCupid don't implement unlimited option subscription? Because we'll discuss that later, but it's quite expensive to train these models. Like the GPU clusters that I'm using are an arm and a leg here. Regardless, so we have those silos and clusters, which are showing how like the different families of intent start to unfold. And obviously you can see that because there's so many different things, there's keywords about Procore sign, construction, manpower. There's so many different things. So they are not all related, so they cannot all be like tied together. That's why you sometimes have this long and stringy structure, where you see here under this branch there's like 19,000 keywords, and you open it and you see more. Obviously it's going to be very difficult for you to find out the keyword that you want like that. That's why we have the search option. And actually, let me also give my notes, because I think I have and you can see that there is a lot more specific things that are going on, but we will see how to do this in a minute. One of the features that we have currently is how you can overlay those clusters on your website. So let's just start with this. You can actually move the clusters here, so you can target everything at once. And you can click this thing here, which is called URL spy. You can, again, naming is not my forte. esub.com is one of the website, like the target website. So you can click this button here, and what this is going to do is it's going to overlay all the different keywords, because in a sense we are a SERP tracker. Like at the point that you provided, we are scraping the SERPs, and we're finding out in the first 100 results, where does your website appear? So what we can do now is the reverse. Find out which pages or which clusters are connected to this to specific URLs from your domain. And you're going to see three things here. Again, my bandwidth is a bit off, and that's why it takes a little bit of time. But this is pretty much like a throw up here. This is not intended to be used like that. But this is going to show you the best URLs for the specific family you have selected. The premise is that you want to use this as like, what you should rank in a page. I don't think you want to rank 21,000 keywords in one page, so that doesn't make sense. But what we're trying to understand is if there is any problem with the site. Here, you will see quickly that these are the best pages of the site. The best pages, meaning that, God damn it, sorry. There's a bit of a lag. Best pages means that like they are ranking for different for more keywords in page 1 and page 2 and what not. The constructions, roles, jobs on the site ranked for 86. It's much better than the actual home page, and then you can see how it plays. This is not so meaningful here. We will see how it's meaningful when you're targeting a specific cluster. But what is meaningful when you're viewing all the keywords at once is the cannibalization analysis. So what this cannibalization chart shows is that for these 2 pages, you can see you have all these keywords competing in page 1 and page 2 for those 2 URLs. So it says that those 2 URLs are ranking for all the keywords together. So there could be a potential problem here. Same thing with 5 civil of engineering projects, 9 types of civil engineering projects. They are all competing page 1 and page 2 for this one. So quickly you can actually find out the potential things. This is a pure cannibalization, because if it was different intent, but I cannot justify that the 5 and the 9 differentiate so much the intent of the query. So there's probably cannibalization that happens here. And then there's cannibalization between more things, like when you hover over a URL here, you can see there's cannibalization in multiple ways, where you can have a URL cannibalizing with multiple ones. But yeah, so it takes a little bit of time. Still contractor, building estimate, for example, you can see how to perform a construction cost estimate, construction estimate 101, everything you need to know. So it validates, it makes sense why those 2 things cannibalizing each other, and this could be a good first step to be able to identify or remove one of the URLs in order to rank better. Is this clear till now as a first step of how we are identifying if there's a problem?
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're starting from here.
But Leo, once you actually discover the overlap, what's the action that you generally recommend to take?
Yeah. So the next step obviously is like to understand, either you do this from here, we're like, again, not knowing the website, not knowing what are the money keywords that Greg was to target. I was like, all right, the construction roles on the job site seems to be a really good thing. So we can go back to the mind map and be like construction. Actually, first of all, like about the brand, right? It's sub. Let me close this because it's heavy. Let me close the presentation too, because this might take some bandwidth too. So ESUB, right? This is all the keywords. We didn't have enough to create multiple ones, but it grouped together all the ESUB keywords into this bucket. So we want to see how ESUB is ranking for its brand terms and if there is any problem there. I think I saw something that obviously you have all the different pages, but there's something around time. I don't know if this is intentional, like where you see ESUB time for web and time management both ranking, and actually is if you search ESUB time, I think number 1 is this support page. I don't know if this is a good term, but that's something else that we can start by looking at, those specific intents and clusters for the money keywords that you want to target. And then obviously there is the question is like, what do I remove them? Do I merge them? Do I create sub pages under one? Let's just say that you don't want to remove them. Maybe if you want to remove them, it's easy. But then one of the things that I was looking for is, I think it had to do with RFI. So RFI, for example, again, I don't know the niche well, so I'm not sure if I am being helpful in actual terms, but this is pretty much like, let's say that you want to rank better for RFI, and you want to see like, okay, what's the status right now about RFI, RFQ, RFP? Let me close some stuff. We're here. We have all those different clusters. There are micro nuances that the system has picked because of later searches, and I can explain more on why this have been deemed different, although they are kind of the same. But the problem that happens with poor keyword research that I also did here is that when you provide the same keyword, the exact same keyword in multiple instances, like RFI, RFP, RFQ, RFI, RFQ, RFP, then the system thinks that those are different signals, but they are the same. That's why it creates this cluster, thinking that, okay, all those things that you told me are the same and they're very distinct from everything else. But all in all, it was pretty much a cleansing processing. That's why it makes more sense to go higher when you want to actually translate this to SEO, and even higher if you have a powerful domain, because it might not make sense to do differences between RFP and RFQ, and then separately differences between RFP and RFQ. How do you determine that? Let's just say that you identified a sort of a cannibalization around this and you want to attack it further. What you can do now, because the system tells you about keywords, but the keywords do not unravel what has been written, what people are consuming. So that's where you create the brief, and you can actually start targeting things. And I'll show you the briefs that I created for eSub. So the briefs, like, let's just say that I was kind of ambiguous. Should I target RFP, RFQ separately, and blah blah blah. Differences between RFP, RFQ. There were different classes that were kind of big. And again, the caveat here is that the content that I'm pulling is from the first 20, not from the first 30 or 40. And sometimes in page 3, you find really cool things. But when the exact content that you are seeing here in the brief, which came from your competitors and is tightly related to the keywords that you're focusing, is identical, which means that those things actually belong together, because there's no much deviation for those concepts. So there's not exactly differences between RFP and RFQ and RFP and RFI. They're all pretty much blended. Like you see, Google treats them as like the URLs that are ranking, and that's where we pull the headings from. They're all pretty much around the same kind of like umbrella. When it comes to something else that you can do as an adjacent post, is what is an RFQ? What is an RFQ? Came from an adjacent cluster here. You see those two, I grouped them together, I put them together here. And then the what is an RFQ has another 34 keywords. And the whole point was like, maybe again, it's RFQ, RFP related, I should put them in one post. But when you do RFQ, what's an RFQ? The content that you're getting, like you see differences are versus, what are the differences, understanding the differences. This is all came from that specific set of keywords. But when it comes to what is an RFQ, it's a bit more. I mean, obviously, there's going to be things that are kind of like overlapping, because there were some URLs that propagated to all of them. Just one has the briefs. We saw them; they were good. We put them here. But the important thing is that there's other things like RFQ meaning, the RFQ a request on how to with template, RFP and RFQ meaning. So the actual 6 steps to write perfect RFQ. So the actual thing that's ranking, the content and the listicles that are ranking, they have a different intent. They are not verses. They might, one of them might slip in, but it doesn't change the fact that there is something different. So for me, there is a different. I can create a micro post around the meaning of RFQs and RFPs, and then there's another post around the comparison between them. Obviously, if you have a massive Neil Patel website, you can actually probably target them at once because they're very related. That's why I think it's sort of like illogical for me to just give a blanket statement of like, that's what you do, that's what you put in the page. It depends on who you are. Like if you have a new site, it's a very different process than if you have an established domain. I've been speaking for a while, so I haven't asked if that makes sense.
We got someone saying that was very clear from a little while ago.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Story of my life. I'm here to repeat this again. I know this was a lot of information, and again, we can see other examples too.
Maybe a short summary of everything you've covered in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So we're starting from an unsupervised, absolutely like different way. There's no Google at this stage. There's just RFP meanings. What's RFP? There's a branch around RFP, and then there's a branch around tools and constructions. There is randomness, construction equipment, blah, blah, blah. Lots of stuff here. How do we translate this into our online property? The biggest thing is that we want to understand if there is an intent mismatch, an intent overlap, an intent, or you want to boost a specific intent more for a page, especially when there's a cannibalization. You don't have to be cannibalized in order to do this process that I'm saying. You can start from a proper kind of like point, but if you are cannibalizing and you want to cannibalizing, meaning, actually, let me also do that. When I say cannibalizing, I mean like you are in that stage where I showed you that the big kind of like blurb for all the keywords that you analyzed, and there was 2 pages that were competing for the same terms. So you're like, all right, I need to do something in order to be able to optimize one and de-optimize the other, so we can get better in life. And that's where we're talking about creating more posts, more specific posts about under a branch, in order to give that kind of like relevance to the post that you want to rank. So by creating sniper posts underneath, and you are linking up, when the Google bot goes there and just sees that all, like you're talking about the differences between RFP and RFQ, you're talking about the meanings, you're talking about everything, then probably that page has a lot more resources around that kind of intent. For example, this one, right? There was 2 pages that had to do. So top 25 electrical contracting companies in 2019, top 60 largest electrical contractors in 2020. They're both ranking for a bajillion of keywords at once. All right, page 1 and page 2. So what do? Do you just, you can just remove one page. That's pretty obvious. But forget that there's a 2019, 2020. Also, we are 2022. You have 2 pages that are competing at exactly the same intent. What do you do if you don't want to remove one? If you want to remove one, things are simple, is to create more articles underneath. And that's what I was trying to explain. Like, how do you go here? You're finding out some of the keywords like American contractors or whatever. You are at this stage, you're like, okay, I wanna find out what is the family around American contractor and companies. I think it had to do with companies.
Leo, by creating more pages underneath, do you mean you're talking about subtopic?
Yes.
Like silos within
yes.
the. Mm-hmm.
I think I should have declared. Yeah. So what I'm talking about is like you have your main page and you're creating supporting articles. Reverse silo, the way that Kyle is teaching about, that's a great way. Be careful, for the love of God, with interlinking. I have seen this many times, that people create those sniper articles and they start linking them to everything. And that's when things unfold, because you want to keep it tight. Like, let's just say, that example with the 2 pages, construction companies, American construction companies. You have all those different things here, like largest infrastructure, big construction, publicly traded companies. You have all those different families, like family-owned construction companies, publicly traded road construction companies. When you look at it, you can see micro intents around publicly traded companies. So the whole question is like, maybe I can create a post that targets only the publicly, only the family, only the largest ones, and then I have enough supporting articles that are going to point up to my main page and be like, listen, I have done my research, Google. I have talked to you about family-owned, publicly traded, top in the US, blah, blah, blah. So I know why I should belong in page 1. This is the general concept.
Naftali, I think that might answer your question that you had on if the keyword isn't on the page, you can fix cannibalization as well.
Yeah, and if the keyword is not, again, cannibalization can be fixed by internal linking. Cannibalization can be fixed. Actually, it's the best way to fix this. The other one is backlinking, but obviously there's dangers because you have to point exact match. But in terms of internal linking, Google wants you to use exact match. Like, again, don't take this to the extreme. Like, you have like 2 million. I saw a client site the other day that was like 2 million back internal links, exact match, and the site got penalized. So there are extremes, but there are also, like, it's easier to justify because you're telling it what this page is about. So even for the content here, you can see that there is the rant that I had before about whether or not the cluster should be the same or blah blah blah. We should split it. You're picking what you're seeing, top 100 construction companies in the world. If you see the brief that the system created based on the URLs that are ranking, you can see clearly that the intent behind this is top 10 big construction companies, top construction companies in 2022. Those are things that you can actually write. I mean, honestly, I don't think that you're going to penalize by using the actual names. So we do have studied all the names that you can use. Australia's top 100 companies ranks. When you go to the other one, which was the family-owned that I mentioned, family-owned, there were just 2 keywords, but 2 and powerful. You can see here that the family-owned construction companies, obviously, as I said, there's something that will creep in. Don't care about that. A family-owned, operated construction, blah, blah, blah. 10 women-owned family in the construction businesses. How family-owned construction firms can plan for succession. So there is intent for sure that you can justify by creating a different post. And then, because that's why I'm trying to explain, like when Googlebot comes to you, because Googlebot doesn't care that you want to rank for that term because you're going to make money from that term. They want to rank, they're going to be like, have you done your research to know what's a construction company? Have you researched family-owned construction companies? Have you researched failed construction companies, publicly traded, women-oriented, sort of like, like the charity ones? I don't know how many things exist. It depends on the keyword research. But by creating this moat around your page, you're augmenting its authority.
Where are we at in the workshop, Leo? Right now?
Yeah, I mean, so
is it time we could kind of bring it back, or is there more to come?
Yeah, no, to be frank, I think like it might have been, again, you tell me. I do have like more things. They're not exactly like, so Well Traveled didn't have that problem, so it had other things. I had a very flat structured, so we didn't really identify cannibalization. If you click here, and so I'll put all of them at once, and you just see where the URLs overlap in what keywords, especially in page 1 and page 2. They're not. There wasn't exactly anything around cannibalization, but there was a lot of things about thin intent, where you had things that were the same page, because there was no supporting articles like about Mykonos specifically, or about 3 Arts Cafe. It was ranking because there's 3 Arts Hardware Cafe in Chicago. Because there was no supporting articles, the site was ranking for, or at least was attempting to rank for hardware in Chicago, which is not what the page is about. That's why you really, especially with a niche like travel, where you have brand names and the brand names change, like the worst thing that can happen with this thing, actually, this is even worse. Shouldn't have clicked that. So Well Traveled Club is the name of the brand, the name of the website, but Travel Club is an actual thing. The Travel Club is an entity. So you have a problem here, because Google thinks that your website is ranking for many things because you are like a travel club, but you are the brand. So there are a few things, even the 3 Arts Cafe that I was telling you, that has to do with like there is this restoration hardware Chicago, where you see that the site is actually somewhat ranking page 2, and you don't want the 3 Arts Club Cafe restoration hardware to rank for hardware restoration keywords. This is only hardware restoration. Yeah, I think that we can wrap it here. So, like, because I do believe that there could have been a bit of an information overload for folks, or we can get questions, whatever you think.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions coming in, and some really
Right.
good ones.
Sure.
Some of them are quite specific. I think it would be a great time to get into some of those. Should we do that? Okay. Well,
Yep.
So we have one about once you're going through this process, in terms of the amount of subtopics you should be creating in your moat. Are they in the MSV of the main monthly search volume of the main keyword, or how do you determine that?
How many? Yeah, I mean, for me, it depends a lot on how passionate you are about that term and that page. There's not exactly, and again, even this is not a gospel, right? This is a suggestion. This is like mostly of how Google is placing those things, or how we are interpreting the information based on what you provided. That it shouldn't be treated as gospel. As I said, it should be treated as, oh, I see something that happening here. Like, I see that those terms here are all very close to each other. 3 Hours Cafe, Restoration Hardware, Cafe Chicago, Restoration Hardware Chicago. So like when I click this, I see that my website is ranking for many of them, and I have mainly one page. Oh, I haven't even talked about fragmentation. All right, maybe one other time about fragmentation, because that's an important topic. But then you can just see, like, are you super excited about 3 Hours Cafe? Maybe you should start talking a lot more about Chicago here. Maybe you should be talking about cafes and like different things that you can do around, just to flavor that this page is about Arts Cafe, not the hardware part of the query. To answer your question, I don't think that I have a specific number of things that you want. Usually, at least from what I have seen from my sides and from people that I have seen, is like that if you create a few posts, and those posts obviously have to get indexed, maybe you build some like Web 2s underneath them just to boost them a bit. The relevance is going to pass, so the right page is going to start getting themed. I worked with a really big provider in it's one of the biggest platforms for real estate, and the way that we were able to rank them for New York apartments was to frame what's New York. So underneath the pages for the real estate for New York, we created like an article about pandemic, about how the pandemic affected New York City, how it lost 33% of its income, blah blah. So, or maybe you can talk about how many Starbucks it has at every corner, or how good the pizza is. I miss pizza. But yeah, that's how you're framing what the city is, and it's going to justify it. It's going to show you the way, in a sense. I have this problem. My business name is video.
Yeah, I think this one is kind of a good one, because a lot of people with brand related terms are going to have similar kinds of problems with this, right?
Yeah. So for this one, let me see what I did here, because I do think that so travel clubs, you said travel club reviews. A good way to fix this. Well, what was that? Video Propeller. Make a page about Video Propeller. Make a page about specifically, because here, for example, that's when I get the content about the travel club reviews, I'm seeing like the travel clubs, best vacation clubs that you should join. This does have to do with travel clubs, not well-traveled club, my brand. So you want to, obviously you can't delete your homepage, but you want to optimize another page in order to de-optimize your homepage for those terms. If that makes sense. I think that's the only way. And I do have that problem in some brands that, that's a double-edged sword, because you're thinking that going, EMD or PMD is a good thing, which is a good thing for initially. And then you're starting getting into the reviews sort of part, which is absolutely not a good place to be. Because their homepage, actually, if you see initially what I pulled, their homepage ranks for everything, which is not a good, like, as far as I'm concerned, the best sites, their homepage shouldn't rank for everything. Because if your homepage ranks for everything, let me speak briefly about fragmentation so you can understand what I mean. If we put all the keywords in, we can see what this page ranks about. So the number one page that you will see for all the keywords, don't care about specific intent right now. We want to see how they perform. It's going to be welltravel.com, welltravelclub.com. But obviously, if your homepage ranks for everything, then it means that it doesn't rank well, or like it's not specialized to anything. Like the ideal website has their homepage optimized for the brand, and then every money keyword is a money page, because it means that if you want to target more money keywords, you can go more money pages, more money problems. But if you have a thing like that, where Well Travel Club ranks for like 20 keywords in page one, position 1 to 5, and like there's so many more coming, then in a sense, all the other ones are hurting because your page is so well optimized. And you're like, yeah, sure, it's a homepage, but no. Fragmentation is an important concept to discuss, which is the reverse of like ranking well. If a page like a homepage is ranking well, but also ranks for many other things, it's not a good place. It's not a good page. Actually, it's not good to show this with all the keywords. It's not going to show, but the fragmentation is the reverse of the opportunity. An opportunity meaning that how well are you ranking for that cluster? And the fragmentation is like, are you ranking for things other than that cluster? I can elaborate more on this, but I'm not gonna like me there if you don't need to. On a scale of 1 from 10, how important is clustering for rankings in comparison to on-page links, etc.? So clustering is more of a strategy, right? Like clustering, it's one of the things that people are saying. I think Greg Morrison said this in a webinar that we were like that. It's like keyword research and stuff is like the annoying thing that you need to do in the beginning to make sure that your house is structured, and you will not realize it until you live in there that is actually messy. So that it's like doing proper keyword research and your strategy before you start. It might actually kind of be counterintuitive because you're like, oh my God, I'm spending all this time, I'm not doing anything. But it is important to have a roadmap. Obviously, in order to rank those things, you do need PAP, you do need links, you do need things. PAP means page optimizer pro, by the way. Okay, but I mean, you have to know that. Where are you now? So you do need like on-page optimization. You do need all those things. You do need link. Yeah, you do need links. But that is for when you were talking about actually creating the content. But what do you put in the content? I don't know if I answered your question. It's never a good thing to answer a question with a question in the end. So we can go back. Do you recommend for a new site to be writing with an easy to run cluster? So clusters for cluster, or to begin with 3 easy clusters at once, example, or begin with a difficult easy cluster. All right. So I like the question. I didn't necessarily understand all the bits of it. I have to reread this, but I like the part of a new site begin. A new site begin writing, put it out, and then see from Google Search Console where does your site place, because Google is not control. It's not a deterministic platform. It's going to have to do a lot with competition, with the trends, with your crawlability, with the how quickly the indexes change. So put it out, see how it performs, and then go back and redo this. Lucas in the video, he was describing how they had one page ranking for both liquid, I don't remember, water tanks and liquid, something like that. And then when he split it, both pages jumped number 1. So it's pretty much the same thing. Like once you get initial feedback of how the page is performing, maybe if it performs poorly, maybe you can split it into 2, or create other articles underneath. I do think that you have to start. It's not about difficulty. I don't know how to assess difficulty. I don't trust the metrics necessarily. I think it has to do with intent. So in a sense, when you're targeting travel, again, who are you talking to? Because like a person that's like a digital nomad in their 20s, it's very difficult for me to have gray hair in my scalp right now, and my back is in pain, and I want like a more leisure life. So I do think, and again, I have seen this so much with probably I have to write an article about this, because this is important, where the sandbox, for me at least, I don't believe it's time related, it's about intent related. Have you convinced that your site requires to be in the world? If you are talking to someone, again, that's where the traffic plays and everything, but if you're talking to a specific person behind it, and you create like a 10-page cluster, you're going to I can show you one of the sites. We have like it wasn't expired domain, but we caught it. It was an ex unicorn. We spent $30,000 on links and stuff like that. This site wasn't going anywhere. I created 10-page cluster last August. Actually, I think August 2020. I can show you Google Search Console. And the site skyrocketed, and I haven't done anything. I just created this page, which was a specific intent, a specific. I'm just trying to not show them because my partner is going to fucking kill. A specific intent, a specific person that I was targeting, and it unlocked the whole traffic. Yeah, so this is pretty much the traffic. So it was like 0 stuff. What the heck's happening? Okay, you see what I'm saying? Like there's this fadey thing, like it's like subliminal messages was just passing, but it was zero stuff, and then it jumped up to like 8,000 just because of like a 10-page cluster that I did last year. I'm sorry.
And you didn't build any more links.
I didn't create anything. I actually forgot about the site because we got pulled in other things, and I just literally forgot about it. And I just checked like that it has like thousands of views and impressions, and I'm not doing anything with it. Which again, not a great place to be.
That's actually kind of a question I'm curious about is just in a really quick, high-level sense, how do you combine your link building strategies with the clusters?
I think that's brilliant. It's a brilliant question. And so what we're working with Jasmine, who is brilliant, Jasmine Malikian, who is writing also my blog, and she's amazing both in writing and SEO skills. But what we're building right now is we're actually building a service because we tested it and stuff, and it was really good. But we're building the clusters offsite. So instead of doing outreach and guest posting from one specific URL, we're still doing guest posting, but instead of building one link from one post from a site that has no traffic, no internal link, what we're building them is a cluster of 5 posts that are all interlinked, and only the point of the arrow is pointing to us. The internal link comes from a 5-piece cluster on the offsite that just utilizes the same methodology of passing the relevance from the offsite source to us without having all these internal links, blah, 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 because you don't need that. You just need them to be good at what you do. It's like, what's the best link that you can get? The link from your competitor. If you can't get that link from your competitor, then try to artificially create someone else to be your competitor, at least even in a small segment. But on a side note, Lucas he was showing us how you can create those clusters with SEO Autopilot and Web2s. Autopilot is another great software. We'll talk about this. I think Elias, if he's not involved in the community, he will definitely be happy to be. And Lucas showed how in the third installment of the video is that he's using this mainly for Web2s, which is a much cheaper approach and works like gangbusters apparently. So yeah. Oh, sorry. Do you recommend for a new site? No, this was the same question. Sorry.
No, we had that one already. I work with a person who refused any help from me when writing copy. Anyway, they use ClearScope. What's your opinion on ClearScope and adding the keywords that they are suggesting? Do you have any experience with using ClearScope? And
yeah, I've used ClearScope. Again, all the tools that are doing this are great. I mean, we have POP here, so I will defer to also POP versus ClearScope versus Surfer versus Phrase versus all of them. We do have like some similar stuff that we're attempting right now. It's not from the entity's point of view, but more from the longevity. Like we have alarms when things are changing, because that's one of the biggest headaches for me. Is like you're optimizing a page, and what, like you have to actually make it optimized. So we have a solution about this with a new tool that we're launching. But in terms of entity finding, it's, I don't know, ClearScope is good. I personally recommend POP, but I'm not sure exactly if there's a way for me to qualitatively tell you like that how to like solve that problem, because if they don't need any help, what's your opinion on ClearScope and all the keywords that they suggest? So something else that Lucas,
I guess it's kind of a much more rudimentary content suggestions than the tool you're behind, right?
Yeah, I can tell you what's happened with both. I saw this when I was using Surfer, and Lucas also mentioned it in one of his videos. So I was like, yeah, more people seeing this. When you use a tool like Surfer, for example, and you are focusing only on a specific keyword and pay the first 20 results, and maybe like even 5 of the first 20 results, you're getting entities that are very specifically about this, like as I showed you for the brief that came along. It's pretty much the same thing, but you are missing the adjacent things. And I saw this a lot with the casino side I was working with, and the blade slots or something like that was missing a lot. Those keywords missing from Surfer, whereas Keyword Cupid, it was in the cluster, because Keyword Cupid was understanding the holistic strategy when you go into the entities of a specific keyword, you might actually miss what's adjacent. So Lucas, what he recommended in his video, which I think is a very good strategy, is to do your optimization as well as you want with whatever tool, and then go, and what he does is that he takes the rest of the keywords that we have in the cluster in Keyword Cupid and puts them into H2s and H3s. So in a sense, supplements them more. A better way of doing that would be to optimize. To optimize all the keywords at once. So all the keywords inside the cluster get their entities and blah, blah, blah for all of them at once and optimize all of them at once. And this is pretty much what I'm doing with the SERP spy here. So in a sense, when you are here and you want to target an entity, let us say Cabo. Cabo. All right. So when you click this bit here, because we did scrape, so we might as well calculate things. You see here you have 110 words, 219, 360. If you focus on this one, it's a very few words. You would think that you have to write this because Instagram and YouTube are ranking, so the average word count is less. But the whole point is the average. So this shows you the average words across the board, the average H tags, the average links. And that's what you're seeing too when you have your content. When you have your content here and you go up in the recommendations, you can see how many words and H2s on average. Like you have 7 H2s. That's why we optimized. But obviously the H3s are kind of like all over the place. The words and blah, blah, blah. The entities follow along the same way. I think just to wrap up this rant, try to put more than what ClearScope is saying, because depending on the seed keyword that they started from, they probably lost many of the things that were important to include in the corpus, and they didn't come from the entities that they extracted from the competitors themselves. Yeah.
There was just one more question from earlier, and then I think we might just kind of wrap up this session. It was from someone called Amir, and he just had a question specifically to your tool and the plans. He wanted to know, are you planning to introduce an unlimited subscription anytime soon?
Unlimited meaning like you can do whatever you want, like unlimited
use, I think.
Yeah, I've never thought of this, mainly because there is, so for every keyword that you are scraping, for every keyword, every competitor that we're scraping, everything that, all the things that we are training, there's a cost involved. And that's not negligible, especially because this is an actual machine learning. Like nobody does online machine learning for a reason. Now I understand why. It's because it's insane. Like, do you have any idea how much time it took me? I was actually trying for Colby. I was trying to create a 70,000 keyword report. This took me literally 2 days and it still failed. I probably spent like $600 here because of the GPU clusters that there are. So when you're trying to play that game of literally training an algorithm on big data, not using an actual deterministic algorithm in each branch, like if they're the same, group them, then things become very stochastic. That's why I'm very iffy of introducing anything, because things like, if that happens, I'm refunding the keywords, I'm refunding the credits, which obviously is my loss. And that's a dangerous place to be. That's why unlimited, for me, it's a very difficult thing to process, because what if people, like I had a client, I think I have joked about this before. I mean, I love the guy, but he provided keywords about Khloe Kardashian and different kinds of meat, like London broil and prime rib and stuff like that. And he was like, it didn't find a solution. The system didn't spit out a solution. It was failing. I'm like, yeah, because there was like 100 keywords and they were all unrelated. Like, what exactly are you trying to find with doing Khloe? Like, maybe Khloe likes meat, but again, it sounds very bad. But regardless, like that's the danger with unlimited stuff.
Right. Okay. So it's a cost issue.
It's a cost issue.
That makes sense. Well, Leo, this was phenomenal. I know there were some questions. There were some questions that didn't get answered, and if you're in IMG, or maybe you can answer Leo, and he's happy to give you his time. But IM members, if you have any questions about this course or any other course, our instructors are all very active in the community, and oftentimes they'll help you with whatever personal questions you have. So if you want to join IMG, just as a reminder, you can find us at internetmarketing.gold. And you can join us every month for free, regardless of whether you're a member or not, in the SEO Lounge. So next time in the SEO Lounge, we have the man behind SEO Notebook. So he is not on very many interviews at all. So this was a great catch. I think that was you, Andy, right?
Yeah, I've been working on this one for like 4 months, actually.
Awesome.
We did, yeah.
I love
We did a workshop with him a couple of years ago, and we're going to kind of do a repeat of that, which was basically around his favorite SEO notebooks, the ones that have been the most popular, and he's going to run through some those top tips from his newsletter, which is going to be awesome.
Cool. Leo, it's always a pleasure to have you. And just as a reminder to anyone who doesn't already know Leo, there's keywordcupid.com and use IMG Rocks for 20% off. So thank you so much. This is so great.
Thank you, guys. And honestly, like I don't know what time zone you are, but I don't expect that it's like early, like a good time for you there. So thank you for staying for like almost 2 hours, hearing me speak with this weird accent and mumbling. Hopefully it made sense. And yeah, thank you so much for having me and creating this amazing community.
I wonder if there was anyone else in the session today who saw the sunrise and went from it being pitch black up outside to now the sun being high in the sky.
And he's still talking. Like, it's changing the day. He just doesn't stop.
We could have gone longer, I think, but we'll wrap it up at 1 hour and 40 minutes. We've also got the recording coming out to anyone who registered for the event that will be sent via email in the next 24 hours. We'll try and get slides in there as well. We'll just ask Leo about that for anyone who missed the detail that was being explained. Is there anything else, Lauren?
I think that's it. So thank you for everyone who was here, and we'll call this the end of the presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.